Hello my fellows, hope you're doing well. Thanks so much for spending some of your precious time with me today. In this video, I wanted to give you guys some updates on some of the plants that I've previously talked about on my channel, I think. Some of these are propagations that I've done in previous videos. Some of these are Caudex plants that have since sprouted back because they do go dormant in the cooler months, and some of these are just some bits and bobs that I wanted to show you guys. So if you're interested to see what they are, then definitely keep on watching. But before we get started, if you're new around here, my name is Grace and I post plant videos every week. So if you're interested in planty content like this, feel free to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you get notified when next week's video is out. First up is my Monstera elbowboursiana. I showed this guy in a couple of my previous videos and I was complaining for the longest time that it really took its time to produce any new leaves at all. So I was a bit concerned. However, now that it is spring, it actually produced this new leaf right here, which I think is looking really good. It is growing so nicely. So I'm still thinking about whether or not it's a good idea to chop it because the variegation is beautiful, the internodal spacing is really good, and I think maybe I'm gonna leave this one and maybe put it on a moss pole to encourage it to grow a little bit taller. So that's my plan with this one. I did say that I might be chopping, propping, and selling it, but I think I'm gonna change my mind on this because once you cut it, like, you can't go back. So I think I'm gonna leave it as is. All right, plant number 2 is a similar story. It's another Monstera, and that's my Monstera constellation that I repotted once or twice, I think twice on my channel because it wasn't growing for me at all. It really took such a long time for it to produce any new leaves for me, but it recently put out this gorgeous new leaf right here. It is one of the largest that it's put out. As you can see, it's not fully hardened off yet, so it's still going to get larger in size. And if you remember from my previous videos, it had a couple of like older leaves. Those have since gone, which is really sad because one of my favorite leaves are no longer here. It withered and died. I mean, I had a good 2 years with it, so I can't really complain. But yeah, it was a little bit sad. Because I do quite like the shape of the more juvenile form leaves. It's a little bit more heart-shaped as opposed to these ones here that are really massive and round. But that's what happens when Monsteras get older or like mature. So, you know, it's bound to happen. But I'm not complaining. I really do enjoy the look of this, and I'm looking forward to more new leaves on this one. Similar to the other Monstera, I might make a large moss pole for this one just to train it to grow a little bit more upright. Next up is my Peperomia Hope. I have not updated you guys on this plant for over a year, I think. When I last showed this, it was in my Peperomia collection video, which I'll link below and also in the cards above if you're interested to check out what it looked like a year ago. It was barely trailing at all, and as you can see now, it's looking pretty cute and has these little trailers. I'm really a big fan of the round button-shaped leaves. They're so adorable. It usually gets a little bit more succulent, like these old leaves here. I'm not sure if that's going to show up on camera, but it's really like thick and juicy. All the newer ones, they're quite flat at the moment, so I'm just waiting for them to puff out. And I don't know if it's because I have been a little bit more conservative with my watering with this one, because as you know, and as I harp on and on about peperomias in a lot of my previous videos, they have very shallow root systems and I don't want to risk overwatering it, so I rather err on the side of underwatering. And so far so good. Like, it's been doing pretty well. It's come such a long way from when I first got it, and I'm really excited for this to bush out because it looks so good. I've seen a lot of pictures of a full basket of Peperomia Hope with its thick, round, juicy, succulent leaves. It is super adorable, and yeah, I can't wait for this one to look like that. Oh, if you're enjoying this video so far, guys, please do me a favor, hit that like button. It really helps out my channel, and while you're at it, leave me a comment down below to let me know which is your favorite so far, or if you have any planty updates to share with me as well. Next up is the only Anthurium that I'm going to be showing in this video, and I know I just did an Anthurium updates video like 1 or 2 videos ago, but I didn't include this in that video, and I thought, why not showcase this to you guys and give you an update. If you haven't watched that video, I'll link it up in the cards above and in the description box below. But basically, I gave you guys an update on a lot of the Anthuriums in my collection and talked a little bit about how they were doing. So if you're interested in that, feel free to check it out. But I didn't include this in that video because it hadn't really given me any new leaves by then. But since that video, there is this gorgeous new leaf that it's put out, and it's still hardening off, so it's still going to get larger. It's an elongated heart shape, but it's also got really rounded veins that are silvery and sparkly. I'm not sure if that's going to come off on camera. I'm going to try my best to capture it, but it generally looks better once it hardens off a little because you can really see the contrast in the veins. If you're interested to see what it's going to look like when it finally hardens off, I will post a picture of it on my Instagram in the weeks to come, so feel free to follow me on there. If you guys watched my Propagate With Me video a while ago, you would have seen me propagate my Peperomia Pink Lady, and I just wanted to give you an update on how they're doing. So this is the most established one, and it is looking so good. Look at how much it has grown. I know a couple of you have gone ahead and propagated your Peperomias as well. In my experience, it took a little while for the propagation to get going. So if you're wondering why your propagation isn't really growing as quickly or not doing anything, hang in there, be patient. It will eventually settle in and start growing really well for you. Another propagation that is taking off is my Hoya Linearis propagation. I did a whole care tips video on Hoya Linearis, so feel free to check that out. I will link it in the cards above and in the description box below as well. This has been super easy to propagate. I literally cut it and stuck it right into soil. It has rooted now and it's starting to take off. As you can see, there are so many, like all of these are new leaves. This one here as well. And then right here, you can tell the one poking up, that's all new growth. And the roots have also grown out through the pot. So this one here is such a fast grower and super duper easy to propagate. So if you have the Hoya Linearis and have been wanting to propagate them, I highly recommend you check out that video because you just can't go wrong with propagating this way. All right, next one up is a fuzzy Caudex plant, and it is my Syningia Bulata. I think that's what it is. If it isn't, I'll correct it on the screen below. This is a spring summer grower and it goes dormant when autumn rolls around. So it was essentially just a Caudex for months and months, and it's finally put out this growth point right here. It's got these beautiful ridges on the leaves, and if you sun stress it a little bit, it has a little bit of like purplish coloration on it, which I absolutely love. And it's also super fuzzy, which I'll show you in the back. Can you see all that fuzz? It is so soft. Yeah, I just can't stop touching it. It's like a soft toy or something. It is super fuzzy. If you are into your Caudex plants or into fuzzy plants, I would highly recommend this one. It's super easy to care for. The only thing you need to watch out for is overwatering the Caudex. But yeah, aside from that, if you give it lots of light, it will reward you with the most beautiful fuzzy foliage. Next up is another Caudex plant, and it is my hot potato, otherwise known as the Stephania erecta. I got this a little while ago, and I know these guys are not so easy to come by, but Collector's Corner on eBay or in store in Victoria do carry these every now and then, and they sell them at a very reasonable price. So if you're in the market for one of them, I highly recommend you check them out. I purchased this a while ago. It never actually produced any leaves, and then it died back when the cooler months rolled around, didn't do very much, and now that spring is here, it put out a new vine for me, and this one is actually producing foliage, so I am super duper excited, and I had to document this. So how adorable are these little leaves? It actually gets to be quite large in size. So, you know, I'm gonna keep an eye on this one. This is one that is really exciting for me because this is the first time I'm actually seeing foliage on it. This plant kind of reminds me of the nasturtium, if you are familiar with those. If you guys want some care tips or just some tips as to how to get it to produce a vine and leaves, definitely let me know in the comments below and I can make a video on that for you guys. Last but not least is a plant that I talked about in my underrated plants video, and if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you check that out. I'll link it in the cards above and in the description box below. But that is my African violet. It is currently in full bloom. Look at that beautiful colored blooms, and absolutely loving life now that it is spring here. It has grown so much for me from a tiny little thing. I also repotted it into this pot here. It was actually in a really tiny pot before and drying out way too quickly. So upsizing the pot was definitely a good move on my part. And also I'm keeping it well hydrated with a saucer of water underneath, and I find that this really helps to encourage the blooms to continually bloom, because once it gets a little bit dehydrated, the blooms will start to wilt. So if you want to maintain the blooms, I would highly recommend you keep it a little bit more well hydrated, and definitely avoid wetting the leaves because they really don't like getting wet. They will rot off very, very easily. So bottom watering is the way to go for this plant. There are a couple more buds on this one, so it looks like it's continuing to bloom, and yeah, hopefully I can enjoy this for a little while longer before the blooms start to wilt. So that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to see more planty content from me, feel free to check these videos out. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay mellow, my fellows.